January 4th, 2015 from Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, Indiana. It was a wild card game between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts won the AFC South, and the Bengals were a wild card team. They were the 5th seed, and so the Colts won the toss. They elected to receive. They would get the ball on their own 29 after the opening kickoff. And on 2nd and 10 from the 29, Andrew Luck hit Daniel Herron. He took it 18 yards for the first down to the 47. Then moved across midfield and into Cincinnati territory. And on 2nd and 10 from the 40, Daniel Herron ran it 27 yards for the first down in the red zone down to the 13. Then on 3rd and 7 from the 10, Andrew Luck dropped back to pass, and he hit Dwayne Allen for an 8-yard reception. It was now 1st and goal on the 2. They gave it to Daniel Herron, and he punched it in for the 2-yard touchdown as the Colts put the first points on the scoreboard, with the score now Indianapolis 7, Cincinnati 0. So now the Bengals would get the ball on their own 20 after the kickoff with 11 minutes still left in the first quarter. But after 7 plays, they would end up punting from the Indianapolis 39. So now the Colts would take over on their own 9-yard line, backed up against their own end zone with 7 minutes left in the first quarter. And they would go 3 and out and punt from their own 16. So now the Bengals would take over with about 6 minutes still left in the first. After the punt, they had it on their own 26. And on first down, Andy Dalton hit Mohamed Sanu for a 10-yard pass and first down at the 36. Then on 3rd and 1 from the 45, Jeremy Hill ran it 18 yards for the first down to the 37 of Indianapolis. Then on 3rd and 4 from the Indy 31, Andy Dalton dropped back. He hit Burkhead for a 26-yard reception. It would make it a first down on the 5-yard line. And then on 2nd and goal from the 1, they ended up getting a penalty that was against the defense, so that brought it up to the half-yard line. And they gave it to Jeremy Hill, and he punched it in for the touchdown. And this game was now tied up at 7 apiece. So now the Colts would take over after the kickoff on their own 9-yard line with about a minute and a half left in the first quarter. And on 3rd and 3 from the 16, Andrew Luck scrambled for the first down with an 18-yard run to bring the ball to the 34. Then on 2nd and 10 from the 34, Luck hit Doyle for a 4-yard reception, and that would bring the first quarter to a close. So after 1 quarter of play, the score was tied up at 7 between the Colts and the Bengals. So now to open up the second quarter, it was 3rd and 6 from the 38, and a false start would bring him back to the 33 for 3rd and 11. And Andrew Luck hit T.Y. Hilton for a 17-yard reception, a first down at the 50-yard line. Then out of the no-huddle in the shotgun, Andrew Luck went back to T.Y. He picked up 30 yards and the first down at the edge of the red zone on the Cincinnati 20. They weren't able to get another first down, though, and out would come Adam Vinatieri to attempt a 38-yard field goal. It was up. It was good. And the Colts were now in the lead by 3 with the score Indianapolis 10, Cincinnati 7. So now the Bengals will get the ball after the kickoff on their own 20 with a little less than 13 minutes left before halftime, and they would go 3 and out on the possession and punt from their own 25. So now Indianapolis would take over after the punt on their own 36 with less than 11 minutes left before halftime, and on 2nd and 8 from the 38, Andrew Luck dropped back. He hit Hakeem Nicks, and he picked up 45 yards and the first down all the way at the Cincinnati 17. So they're now in the red zone, but they weren't able to get another first down. And out would come Adam Vinatieri to attempt a 29-yard field goal. It was up, it was good, and the Colts extended their lead to 6 with the score Indianapolis 13, Cincinnati 7. So now the Bengals will get the ball on their own 32 after the kickoff with about 8.5 left in the second quarter. And after 5 plays, they would end up punting from their own 48. So now the Colts will get the ball on their own 9-yard line after the punt with a little over 5 minutes left before halftime. On 3rd and 2 from the 17, Andrew Luck hit Hakeem Nicks for a 4-yard reception, a first down to 21. Luck then went to Dwayne Allen. He picked up 10 yards and the first down to 31. Luck then went to T.Y. Hilton, and he picked up 25 and a first down at the Cincinnati 44. Andrew Luck then dropped back to pass, and he was sacked by Hunt and Adkins, and that brought us to the 2-minute warning. So now coming out of the 2-minute warning, it was 2nd and 18 from the Indy 48. Andrew Luck dropped back, hit Daniel Herron. He picked up 17, but then he was blown up by Denard. He forced the fumble, and Reggie Nelson would recover. So now the Bengals had the ball on their own 41 with less than 2 minutes left before halftime. They would end up bringing it into Indy territory, and with just seconds left, they would end up stalling on the 39 with a 4th and 5, and they brought out Mike Nugent to attempt a 57-yard field goal, It was up, and it was good. And so now it was back to a 3-point game with the score Indianapolis 13, Cincinnati 10. So they would kick off the ball, and Andrew Luck took a knee, and this game would go to halftime. So at halftime, it was Indianapolis 13, Cincinnati 10, and now to be in the second half, the Bengals would get the ball first. And on the first possession of the second half, they would go 3 and out and punt from their own 26. So now the Colts would take over after the punt on their own 25 with about 14 left in the third, and they would go 3 and out and punt from their own 32. So now the Bengals would get the ball back after the punt. They had it on their own 10. And they went 3 and out for the second consecutive possession in the third between the two teams as they punted from their own 15. So now the Colts would take over on their own 39 after the punt with about 10 minutes left in the quarter. Now on 2nd and 8 from the 41, Andrew Luck hit Moncrief for an 11-yard reception that made a first down in the Cincinnati 48. And they picked up another first down, and then on 2nd and 10 from the 36, Andrew Luck went to Daniel Moncrief, and he picked for the 36-yard touchdown. And it was now a 10-point lead for the Colts with the score Indianapolis 20, Cincinnati 10. So now the Bengals will get the ball after the kickoff on their own 20 with a little less than 8 minutes left in the third. And after 4 plays, they ended up punting from their own 24. They actually got a penalty as we gave that extra play on there. Otherwise, it's 3 and out. But so now the Colts would get the ball on their own 43 after the punt. They would bring the ball into Cincinnati territory. They would get all the way down in the red zone, but they made it to the 4-yard line, but they couldn't get in the end zone, and so out would come Adam Vinatieri to attempt a 22-yard field goal, his 3rd field goal of the game. It was up, it was good, and it was now Indianapolis 23, Cincinnati 10, as they extended their lead to 13. So now Cincinnati had the ball on their own 13 after the kickoff with a minute and a half left in the third, and on 3rd and 8 from the 15, Andy Dalton was sacked by Jean-Francois and Freeman, and that brought the third quarter to a close. So after 3 quarters of play, the score was Indianapolis 23, Cincinnati 10. And to begin the fourth quarter, the Bengals would punt from their own 10-yard line after having gone 3 and out on the possession. And now the Colts would take over at midfield at the Cincinnati 47. They would bring the ball down to the 35. That's where their drive stalled, and they brought Adam Vinatieri out to kick his 4th field goal of the game, this one from 53 yards out. It was up, and it was good. So now it's a 16-point lead for the Colts with the score Indianapolis 26, Cincinnati 10. So the Bengals get the ball on their own 20 after the kickoff with 11 and a half minutes left in the fourth quarter. But after 4 plays, they would end up punting from their own 31. So they picked up a first down, but then Andy Dalton was sacked by Corey Redding, and they wouldn't be able to recover from that, and so they punted from the 31. And now the Colts would take over backed up against their own end zone on their own 6-yard line with 9.5 left in the fourth. They would run down some clock and bring the ball to midfield and into Cincinnati territory. But then on 3rd and 3 from the 40, they got a delay a game penalty, so they would end up punting the ball from the Cincinnati 45. Now Cincinnati would take over on their own 20 after the punt with 4.5 on the clock, and they would bring the ball up to midfield with a couple first downs. And on 1st and 10 from the 50, Dalton went to Brock. He picked up 7 on 2nd and 3 from the Indianapolis 43. Andy Dalton was sacked by Freeman. Freeman forced the fumble. It was recovered by Hughes. So now the Colts would take over up by at least 2 scores because the Bengals needed 2 touchdowns and 2 two-point conversions. But now it's Indianapolis ball on their own 46 with less than 3 minutes left to play. They went to just run the clock out by giving the ball to Tipton. And so they ended up going 3 and out, but they did bring it to the 2-minute warning, and they did force the Bengals to use their final timeout. So now they were punting from their own 47, and the Bengals now would take over with less than a minute left, needing 2 scores. They had on their own 27, and they would bring the ball into Indianapolis territory, but they weren't able to score. And the game would come to a close with the final score, Indianapolis 26, Cincinnati 10. So the Colts advance, and the Colts will be going to Denver, as it'll be a rematch between Andrew Luck and Peyton Manning, what was the Colts' past against the Colts' future. So the Colts win this game, and in this game, Andrew Luck was 31 for 44. He had 376 passing yards and a touchdown. He also rushed for 18 yards on the ground off of 2 carries. Andy Dalton was 18 for 35 with 155 passing yards, and he had 4 carries for 34 yards. The leading rusher in the game was Daniel Herron with 12 carries for 56 yards and a touchdown, and Jerry Mayhill had 13 carries for 47 yards and a touchdown. Herron also had 10 receptions for 85 yards to go along with his 56 yards rushing. But the leading receiver was T.Y. Hilton with 6 receptions for 103 yards. The leading receiver for Cincinnati was Giovanni Bernard, the running back. He had 8 receptions for 46 yards to go along with his 3 carries for 6 yards. And on defense, the game's leading tackler was for the Indianapolis Colts, and that was Gerald Freeman. He had 15 tackles and 1.5 sacks. So Freeman has a huge game. The Colts actually combined for 3 sacks, as Corey Redding also had a sack, and Juan Francois combined for a half a sack along with Freeman's 1.5. And the Bengals only had 1 sack, and that was a half sack between Hunt and Atkins, and their leading tackler was Vincent Ray, who had 11 tackles. So the Colts, they just kept scoring. They didn't put up that many points, but 26 was well more than enough, as their defense was able to shut down the Bengals and hold them to just 10 points. And they blanked them in the second half. As they went into the locker rooms at halftime, it was Indianapolis 13, Cincinnati 10. But in the second half, the Colts shut out the Bengals, and they put up 13. So they put up 13 in the first half, 13 in the second half. Like I said, their defense came up huge in the second half of this game, and Andrew Luck had a monster game, almost 400 yards passing. He only got him in the end zone once, but with Adam Vinatieri kicking those field goals and Daniel Aaron had that rushing touchdown, that was all they needed with the way their defense played. So the Colts advanced to play the Broncos next Sunday, and the final score in this game, Indianapolis 26, Cincinnati 10.